Hi library friends, it's Miss Abby. Welcome back for another episode of Read Aloud Roundup. Now remember, this is kind of like a book club where we read a little bit from a lot of books by the same author, and it gives you kind of a flavor or a taste of what their writing is like. If you like what you hear, then you can go to the library and read the rest of the book that I started reading to you, and let me know. Is this the kind of book you like? Let's read more. This month we're focusing on Neil Gaiman. Last week we read a little bit from Coraline, and it kind of ended with a spooky little cliffhanger that her other mother and father had been waiting for her for a while. Did you get a chance to read any more of that book? Did you run down to the library and check it out? It has some kind of spooky parts, but Coraline is a good protagonist. I like her a lot. She's spunky. If you got a chance to read that, let me know what you thought about it. This week we're going to shake it up a little bit. Neil has some really great books that are picture books. So we're going to read this picture book, The Wolves in the Wall. Now we're not going to read all of it because even though it's a picture book, it's not really a book for little kids. It's for older kids, and it's a little bit longer. So I found a good spot to stop. That's going to leave you wanting more. Ready? Let's get started. The Wolves in the Walls, written by Neil Gaiman, and this is illustrated by Dave McKean. He also did the illustrations in our edition of Coraline that we have. Do you remember that? The Wolves in the Walls. Now I'll read it and then I'll show you the pictures. Lucy walked around the house. Inside the house, everything was quiet. Her mother was putting homemade jam into pots. Her father was out at his job, playing the tuba. Her brother was in the living room, playing video games. Lucy heard noises. The noises were coming from inside the walls. They were hustling noises and bustling noises. They were crinkling noises and crackling noises. They were sneaking, creeping, crumpling noises. Ooh. Lucy knew what kinds of things made noises like that in the walls of big old houses, and she went and told her mother. "There are wolves in the walls," Lucy said to her mother. "I can hear them." "No," said her mother, "there are no wolves in the walls. You must be hearing mice, I suppose." "Wolves," said Lucy. "I'm sure it's not wolves," said her mother, "for you know what they say. If the wolves come out of the walls, then it's all over." "What's all over?" asked Lucy. "It," said her mother. "Everybody knows that." How would you feel? A little creeped out, right? Whew, if your mother told you that. Lucy picked up her pig puppet doll, which she'd had since she was a little baby. "I don't think it sounds like mice," she said to her pig puppet. In the middle of the night, when everything was still, she heard clawing and gnawing, nibbling and squabbling. She could hear the wolves in the walls plotting their wolfish plots, hatching their wolfish schemes. Would you be a little hard to sleep, having a hard time to sleep if you were afraid like that? I would too. In the day, Lucy felt eyes upon her, watching her from the cracks and from the holes in the walls. They peeped through the eyes in painting. She went to talk to her father. "There are wolves in the walls," she told him. "I don't think there are, Poppet," he told her. "You have an overactive imagination. Perhaps the noises you heard come from rats. Sometimes you get rats in big old houses like this." "It's wolves," said Lucy. "I can feel them in my tummy. And Pig Puppet thinks it's wolves as well." "Well, you can tell your puppet," began her father, and then he said, "Why am I asking you to tell her anything? She's just a puppet." Lucy patted her pig puppet's head so she wouldn't be offended. "Anyway, you know what they say about wolves," said her father. "If the wolves come out of the walls, it's all over." "Who says that?" asked Lucy. "People. Everybody, you know," said her father, and he went back to practicing his tuba. She was drawing a picture when she heard the noises again. A scrambling, rambling, rustling in the walls. "There are wolves in the walls," she told her brother. "Bats," he said. Do you see that eye? "You think it's bats?" she asked. "No," he said, "I think you are." And he laughed for a long time at his own joke, although it had not been a particularly good one. "I am not bats," said Lucy. "I'm telling you there are wolves in the walls." "Firstly, there are no wolves in this part of the world," he told her. "Secondly, wolves don't live in walls, only mice and rats and bats and things. Thirdly, if the wolves come out of the walls, it's all over." "Who says?" asked Lucy. "Mr. Wilson at my school," said her brother. "He teaches us about wolves and things." "And how does he know?" asked Lucy. "Everybody knows," said her brother, and he went back to doing his homework. Why does everybody but Lucy know that? I want to know. The next day, the noises were louder. "We have to do something about those mice," said her mother. "Pesky rats," said her father. "I'll call someone up about them in the morning." "It's bats, I know it is," said her brother happily. "I shall ensure that I sleep with my neck exposed tonight in case one of them is a vampire bat. Then, if it bites me, I shall be able to fly and sleep in a coffin and never have to go to school in the daytime again." But Lucy did not think it was mice, or rats, or bats. She shook her head at this sad display of ignorance. Then she cleaned her teeth, and she kissed her mother and father, and she took herself off to bed. The old house made no noises that night. "I don't like it," Lucy told her pig puppet. "It's too quiet." But soon enough, she closed her eyes and she was fast asleep. In the middle of the night, there was a howling and a yowling and a bumping and a thumping, and the wolves came out of the walls. Ooh, they're creepy. "Oh no!" shouted Lucy's mother. "The wolves are coming out of the walls!" shouted Lucy's father, picking her up and running down the stairs with her and his best tuba in his arms. "It's all over!" shouted her brother as he fled down the stairs beside them. The family went out the back door and into the garden. They huddled at the bottom of the garden that night. The lights were on in every room of their house. Back in the house, they knew that the wolves were watching their television and eating their food from the family's pantry and dancing wolfish dances up the stairs and down again. Rude. "We should go and live in the Arctic Circle," said Lucy's father, "where the houses are made with walls of ice and snow and there's nothing but polar bears and seals for hundreds of miles. When the wolves come out of the walls, there's nothing else you can do." Said Lucy. "We must go and live in the Sahara Desert," said her mother, "where the walls are colored tent silks that flap in the hot wind and there's nothing but camels and desert foxes for thousands of miles." "Blech," said Lucy. "I think we should go and live in outer space," said her brother. "We could live in an orbiting space station with metal walls with lights on them that blink and flash and nothing but foozles and squassle socks for billions of miles." "What are floozles and squassle socks?" asked Lucy. "Outer space things," he told her. "They have lots of legs except for the squash sucks who don't have any legs at all, but they're friendly enough." "I don't want to live anywhere that isn't my house," said Lucy, "and I left my pig puppet behind." "We can get you a new one wherever we're going," said her mother. "Now, let's try to go to sleep." Ooh, how would you feel if you left your lovey behind? Worried? Pretty bad, right? It was chilly at the bottom of the garden, and Lucy missed her pig puppet. She'll be all alone in that house with the wolves, she thought. They could do dreadful things to her. Oh, she's worried, huh? Worried about her friend? So, Lucy crept back up the garden, quieter than a mouse, and she slipped up the back steps and through the back door and into the house. Lucy was standing there in the little hall at the back of the house when she heard some wolves coming down the stairs. They had been eating jam and toast in front of the television and were coming back for more. Where could she go? she do? Oh boy. What do you think Lucy's gonna do? That's where we stop, because I want you to go pick this book up from your library and read the rest of it. It's a little spooky, right? It's spooky to think about something in your house when you don't want something there, right? Oh, but I wonder if Lucy can solve the problem. I hope you enjoyed this story, or at least the part of it that you heard, and that you're ready to read more. I'll see you next week.